Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased that so many are here at this early hour, and I have a joint presentation together with people from the British Geological Survey. The angular unconformity at Siccar Point is an iconic site where, near the end of the 18th century, James Hutton recognized the significance of unconformities and argued for deep time in geoscience. The unconformity played a key role in Hutton's insight that geological processes are not just destructive, but also capable of restoring and thus leading to a rock cycle of indefinite duration. Siccar Point is found at the coast of Berwickshire at the Scottish borders, some 60 kilometers east of Edinburgh. It's a coastal promontory that provides a spectacular angular unconformity, beautifully displayed in 3 dimensions with Upper Devonian red sandstones resting discordantly on folded near vertical Lower Silurian greywacke deposits. These Silurian greywacke's are marine turbiditic dark grey fine-grained wacke sandstones interbedded with a finely laminated fissile mudstone of the Llandovery. These rocks were strongly deformed, that is, folded and cleaved, during the Caledonian orogeny. Subsequent erosion formed an irregular surface with considerable paleorelief generated through differential rays of weathering and erosion of individual beds in the Silurian succession. Beds of wacke sandstone standing up more sharply and prominently than the softer rocks adjacent to them. Atop the angular unconformity, there rest Upper Devonian Ferninian strata, first a thin basal breccia, then red to reddish-brown sandstones deposited in a desert environment. In marked contrast to the underlying Silurian strata, the Upper Devonian beds have only a gentle inclination produced during the later, here less intense Veriscan orogeny. Siccar Point, however, is much more than a gorgeous and highly instructive geological outcrop. Its even greater significance lies in the history of science. And to understand this, we need to go back into the late 18th century and meet James Hutton, a Scottish polymath interested particularly in medicine, chemistry, agriculture, and what was to become geology. Hutton was a prominent figure of the Scottish Enlightenment and a deeply religious deist. During the 1780s, he developed his very own theory of the earth, then popular literary genre, which gave a narrative of the development of the earth from creation either to the present state or onward to the end of days. Many of these various theories of the earth were meant as an introductory chapter to a history of humankind, because in the biblical view, human history and earth history were basically contemporary. Hutton's version, however, is not a narrative starting with a perfect world of creation, which then gets ruined in a linear process punctuated by biblical events. Hutton envisaged also processes capable of regenerating the earth, leading to a cyclical worldview of indefinite, potentially eternal duration. Hutton's spiritual ideas were directed by the conviction that a benevolent God had created the earth as homestead to humanity. Thus, Hutton shied from interpreting geological change as a consequence of sudden catastrophe. Instead, he saw change as solely due to a gradual, long-term process as observable today. This deistic God would not interfere by miracles, but had devised everything from creation in a manner that the living conditions would benefit humankind. This philosophical, theoretical insight was contradicted by daily observations of soil erosion. The consequences, that is, the progressive destruction of a major prerequisite of human life, were not particularly unsettling, because from the Christian point of view, the earth was but a transient feature, maybe just a few thousand years old if one took the Bible literally, and with the end of all things also to be expected in not too far a future. Hutton, however, noticed other features as well. For instance, the fact that a major part of rocks was made up of material which had been produced by the destruction of former rocks, such as this conglomerate. Consequently, there must exist also processes which produce new rocks, which by weathering are transformed into new soils. Thus, wisdom and benevolence of God became obvious in a wonderful rock cycle. On his journeys, several, he traveled quite a lot, Hutton looked for clues to the functioning of this earth machine. In geological unconformities, such as Siccar Point, he found the empirical evidence for previous cycles of this earth machine. Rock beds had been elevated and tilted. They had been eroded and then were covered by new beds, which now fell victim to erosion themselves. As engine for those consolidating, elevating and tilting of rock strata, he imagined an internal heat, which, as in a steam engine, would provide the necessary force. Hutton also found proof of internal heat. He recognized that granite was not, as commonly assumed, the primordial ground of the earth, crystallized from the biblical primordial waters, but was able to rise from depth in melted form and intrude into the surrounding rocks. Hutton saw in the field and in the many hand specimens he collected on his travels the realization of numerous cycles of his earth machine. And so it is no wonder that he felt compelled to state in 1788 that we find no vestige of a beginning, no prospect of an end. Hutton's unconformity at Siccar Point played a key role in Hutton's insight that geological processes are not just destructive, but also capable of restoring, thus leading to a rock cycle of indefinite duration. Since then, the locality also has become the celebrated nexus for empirical argument concerning the great age of the earth. As Hutton's friend and biographer John Playfair noted when he saw Siccar Point for the first time, the mind seems to grow giddy by looking so far into the abyss of time. Thank you for your attention. Herzlichen Dank.